We don't know the beginnings of rap because as long as our music has been recording, people have been rapping.
The disco DJs separated themselves from us. We were the next generation coming up with this thing, and they were like, what's this little hippity hop thing?
The first time I heard somebody spit a 16 over a break beat was probably Melly Mel.
The Melly Mel sound that you hear today, I got that sound from Hollywood.
I was doing this same form of entertainment long before it had a name.
A lot of the gangs were fading out by the time hip-hop came in. A lot of those gangs turned into crews.
As far as influencing hip-hop, I saw no Puerto Rican or Jamaican influences whatsoever.
I started breakdancing in the 70s.
When rap and hip hop was all black, it was negative. Now that it became a big phenomenon and corporately acceptable, now there's this need to take foundational black Americans out of the creation of it and give it away to other people. And it's important for us to set the record straight.
You understand? Let's get 4chan GOAT. The 4chan GOAT. What's going on, man?
So obviously, as you just said, it sounds like you're not a fan of the Democrats. I was wondering what you think about Islam and like the Nation of Islam, like Malcolm X. Like, do you ever see like a FBA political party forming to counteract the mistreatment of blacks by the Democratic Party?
Well, just mistreatments of black people, period. But yeah, the Nation of Islam, yeah, I rock with the Nation of Islam heavy. Yeah, I rock with them, a big supporter of them, big supporter of Malcolm, big supporter of Minister Farrakhan, big supporter of Elijah Muhammad. So yeah, the Nation of Islam, phenomenal organization. They're like really the only long-term successful black organization. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the only one who really got it right. And
would you say Farrakhan's been like the most prominent person of the ones you've listed in the last like 30 years?
Yeah, probably so. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with Farrakhan, how he calls out Jewish people, why do you say liberal Democrats or Hollywood liberals? Why don't you just say Jewish people?
No, because I don't break white supremacists up in groups. It's pointless to do that because the white supremacists who are Jewish and the white supremacists who are Christian are all on code with each other. You understand? So why should I break them up in groups?
Well, you broke it up into a liberal group.
Well, that's the political part.
You don't think there's conservatives in Hollywood that misuse black people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, when I break down white supremacists, I break them down. I just put them in a whole collective. I don't break them up because when the dominant white supremacist society starts attacking black people, they don't start speaking out against each other. They all get on board with each other. I give you a current example right now with Diddy. You got a lot of white supremacists or suspected white supremacists, Anglos, who will talk about Jewish people this and Jewish people that. But when they're white Jewish people who are helping them attack black folks, they don't criticize each other. For example, Gloria Allred, who's Jewish, and she's attacked and helped bring down almost every prominent black male entertainer and athlete. She just wheeled out a quote victim in the Puffy case. Nobody never really criticizes her for attacking black men all the time. You understand? So yeah, y'all don't break that up. So I don't break them up. I don't break the white supremacist suspects up. So that's how I look at it.
What do you think about the case of Leo Frank, which led to the formation of the ADL, which we all know the ADL recently has kind of been going after black activists with the Palestinian conflict, and that's an example of when white supremacists teamed up with black people to call out Jewish supremacy. Because Leo Frank blamed the murder on a black person, and then the white supremacists, the KKK, they said
didn't
no,
believe
it wasn't a black guy; it was actually this Jewish guy.
Right. They didn't believe it because it was a frame up. So they knew it wasn't the black guy. So they knew it wasn't him.
But wouldn't you admit that's like a pretty good example of
No,
sometimes black and white people can get along against
that
Jewish
was
supremacy?
no, that wasn't getting along. It was just they realized that the black person didn't do it. All right. They realized that it was a black person who, who didn't commit the crime, because if he did, or even if they thought he did, they would have lynched him. So that wasn't them getting along. It was just an innocent black person who just happened to not get caught up. And, that's what happens. But again, in the white supremacist movements, there's been Jewish people in white supremacist organizations. Dan Burroughs, he was part of the American Nazi Party. What do you think about him? He's
I'm
Jewish.
not
He
I'm
was.
not too familiar with that person specifically, but I do know a little bit about George Rockwell, which George Rockwell is also kind of the leader of the Nazi Party in America. Also, he was assassinated by a Jew.
Mhm. Yeah, and there was another Nazi part of the American Nazi Party, a guy named Frank Joseph. That was another one. And they found out he was Jewish and he was a part of the American Nazi Party. And some of the alt-right guys, some of them are clicked in with the alt-right, and they're Jewish. Laura Loomer, who runs around with the alt-right and throwing up Nazi signs and the white supremacist hand signal, she's Jewish. Yeah. So why break them up? Right?
So, do you think there's a chance in our American future where blacks and whites can live together and this isn't a conversation, or do you feel like it's something intrinsic in white people?
Well, there's some people who believe in white supremacy and there's some who don't. And unfortunately, the white people who don't believe in white supremacy are not as powerful as the ones who do. Why do you think the white supremacists are so powerful within your community?
Well, I'm clearly white, as you can tell, but I have personally never met many white supremacists in positions of power. Could you name a few?
Yeah, Biden is a suspected white supremacist.
I could see that accusation definitely, especially in the past. If you look at some of his quotes in his track record,
Yeah, I mean,
like the crime bill,
right.
his quote about like a racial jungle.
Hmm.
But it could be a facade. But I feel like he's kind of changed his opinions with age. But it could all be acting. All politicians are actors.
Biden's mentor, Robert Byrd, was a card carrying Klan member, sir. You understand? So yeah, I think Biden knows a thing or two about white supremacy. I don't think it was a fluke. That crime bill wasn't a fluke. That wasn't a facade. There was real life damages behind that. So yeah,
So do
yeah.
you think like the Biden administration, they gave $2 billion to FBA, or not FBA schools, but HCBUs, which was, if you account for inflation, Obama gave 1 billion, Biden gave 2 billion, but with inflation, that's kind of about the same money with the recent rise in inflation. So, do you think that's kind of just like a diversion of our attention to be like, oh, hey, look, we gave them $2 billion for HCBUs, like, don't look anything deeper into it?
Well, basically, the HBCU, that money is going to go back to the white people who are running things behind closed doors, and the financiers, that money goes to them. Also, that money goes to the all of the immigrants that they let go to the HBCUs. Because right around the time they allocated those resources, they opened the floodgates and allowed a whole bunch of immigrant groups. You got Hispanics all up in HBCUs now. You got the Rachel Dolezal. So that was a nothing burger to us. Giving money to HBCUs, basically, you're giving the money back to banks, essentially. So when they start giving reparations, direct money that's going to benefit us directly, then come holler at me. Not one of these lift all programs where every group can come in and kind of siphon off the money and then we'll get the crumbs. And that's not a real program.
So I would say
Go Bro, let me ask you
Every,
this. How do you feel about
okay.
reparations of Black Americans? How do you feel about that?
I feel like they should have paid their promise of the 40 acres and a mule back then, and it's hard to make the comparison of what the current monetarily value would be. What do you think is a fair monetary value, I guess?
Start off, and I talked about this the other day, a $20 trillion package. $20 trillion. We start off with that, and then we find out how to allocate that per family. But start off at 20 trillion,
How, how
and we.
many how many black households are in the country, just if you
But
know?
it's between 43 and 45 million foundational Black
So,
Americans.
so that's like I can't do the mental math right now. But that's something like what, 5 million per household? Something like
We
that?
got to crunch those numbers. Yeah, we got to crunch those numbers. Well,
We can just say 5 million. If it's 50, we can say 550. It's one of those to the
okay.
10th power. But I feel as a white American that I feel like I'm okay with reparations to end the stigma and the because reparations is the only thing that FBAs seem to claim will fix the problem. Correct, like you just said.
But it's not about fixing a problem. It's just debt that's owed. It's a debt that's owed. Our job is to not fix anybody's problem. It's a debt that's owed to us. And white supremacy, that's a problem in your community that you guys have to fix. And if you want to fix it, you have to show steps that you're trying to make equitable justice. And reparations would be a step for that. So that's something that you would have to fix within your community because every time we try to build on our own, when we say, okay, since they're not going to give us anything, we'll just go over here on that side of town and we'll build our little Black Wall Street. The white supremacist community, they always seem to come in and sabotage what we try to do on our own. And it happens over and over and over again. And we keep having to get our little money together, rebuilding over and over. When black people built up Wilmington, North Carolina, the white supremacists destroyed it. Rosewood, they came in and destroyed it. Prominent black areas in Miami and Detroit and Chicago, they built freeways over there. So since we are not allowed to build what we need to build without being sabotaged, you just give us the money that's owed. How about that? Wouldn't that make more sense?
I think that could be fair for
Right.
sure. And this is
Right.
this is coming from someone who's like rather far right and follows controversial leaders and kind of what you want to call white supremacy spaces. But one issue I have with that, and you kind of touched on this a few minutes ago, is like we got people like Somalians coming in. I feel like it'd have to be only for people who could track their lineage to plantations. Like how could you have these Somalians come in and they try to claim it? You know what I mean? You just said when they're gangbanging, they can't claim black on the crime report. They got to claim Somalian. So I feel like before we could get that to work, we got to identify who the true people would be and stop other African groups coming in who are coming in just to try to get that money that you earned, and they didn't earn it, your ancestors did. Does that make sense?
Right, right. And that's why there would be a like a Freedmen's Bureau. That's why we're trying to establish that so that we can make everything lineage based. Everything is going to be lineage based. It's going to go to foundational Black Americans who descended from freedmen. And we had a Freedmen's Bureau after slavery that got busted up. The Freedmen's Bureau was around the same time the Bureau of Indian Affairs was around. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, that's still here and they still get resources allocated to them. So we need to just reestablish the Freedmen's Bureau and not have that sabotage too, because again, we had the Freedmen's Bank and we had money saved up and the white supremacists came and took all the money. So again, they just need to go ahead and give us what we need to get since they're going to sabotage everything. So that's what it is.
So obviously, you wouldn't want Black Americans to pay this money. Obviously the taxes are lumped together, and obviously Hispanics shouldn't have to pay this money too because they were also persecuted by the white system at the time. But There's a large chunk. What do you think about the northern states? Let's say a white person tracked their lineage to states that didn't have slavery.
So let's slow it
It,
down. Hold on, slow down.
okay.
You said Spanish were who were they persecuted by?
Well, the American government went in to Mexico in 1912. They took California from them. I'm sure they killed a decent amount of people. I don't think Hispanics hypothetically should have to pay you reparations because Hispanics never owned slaves that were black in America. Definitely in Brazil, definitely in some islands in the Caribbean, but as far as I know, in the
How,
South,
okay,
with
wait, no. How do wait? Slow down, slow down. How come they don't owe nothing, but my tax dollars go to them if they jump across this border? Why do they get my tax dollars, but I ain't supposed to get theirs? How's that work?
no, I totally agree on your latter point that your tax money should definitely not be going to people illegally entering. But
Right. I didn't start Venezuelan gangs. I didn't do anything to nobody in South America, but yet
yeah, for sure.
they go straight to my neighborhoods, the black they gotta get up all of our resources. They're being housed in our schools in black neighborhoods. The black community is out here crying for help now, and we're footing the damn bill. So I don't want to hear nothing about what the hell they didn't do and how they don't owe. The hell they don't. You come over here, eat off our tax dollars, you owe. You absolutely owe. Anybody who comes over here, they owe. You're part of this empire. You know what you're signing up for. This country owes a debt, and if you're a part of that, you're gonna have to get down with it. It's just like a mortgage. Mortgage companies, they sell mortgages all the time. They sell mortgages all the time. And when a mortgage company buys the mortgage from one company, and you can't say, well, I bought this house and I don't know you. I don't know you, Shell Point. I don't know you. Well, shit. You owe me. You owe because I'm clicked in with the people who you were paying initially. So I'm clicked in with them and you owe me. So we're all connected. We got a relationship through that other person, through that other person, through that other person. So everybody's all interconnected with the relationship. So anybody who comes over here, they owe. That's what the go now. Where'd your family come from? I know you're gonna say Germany, but where?
Uh, I'm like a mutt of Western Europe and the British Isles. Honestly, I've heard every different major country. I've heard German, France, English, Irish. So I've never had a DNA test done, but I know for a fact one of my great grandfather's lineage can be traced from coming from Canada. So he definitely had to have been French, I assume. He
Yeah.
came down from the north, but just like a lot of other Americans, a lot of I wouldn't say my lineage is lost like a slave, obviously. That's completely non comparable, but I just have to say I don't know my complete lineage.
Right, and most people don't. I mean, hell, foundational Black Americans, we can kind of trace our lineage farther back than hell most white people, because many white people they came after the 1800s. They came after the 1800s, and many of them came after slavery. Really, the only large groups of people that were here during slavery were really the English, the British, and uh, the Irish, and people like that. But yeah, a lot of folks can't really trace their joints back like that. So it's understandable. So all right. Let me get my guy Robbie in here. Guy Robbie wants to chime in on the combo. Brother Robbie, what's up, brother? Brother Robbie Blue, what's happening? How you doing?
The Lord's work, man. I don't see why these guys act like it's complicated math, like they don't understand, and then they want to try to trauma bond with black people and get us to do their hard work, and they come to Black Daddy crying like they're Hitler on soy milk. Now,
Yeah.
if P Diddy can be caught up in a freak off, basically Lady Liberty was in a freak off over here in America, right? They all
Oh yeah.
participated. Why are they acting dumb? If in other words, if it's I'm white and I say so, It's not a debt that's closed, it's a delinquent account. And it's a debt that needs to be paid. If you can send little rockets to space, I don't think black people's tax dollars during segregation were separated right. We helped to
Right.
fund their schools. We did everything. So basically, they're just being billion-dollar panhandlers. And one thing I really don't like about them is they just pocket watch Jewish people. They'll pocket watch you if you put a movie out, and then they'll pocket watch Jewish people. And then they say they want to have a white ethnostate when most of their neighborhoods are lily white. So
Yeah.
they're just basically crybabies. That's all I'm saying. I'll land my plane there.
There you go. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed. So the goat. So are you one of these guys who want a white ethno state?
I think I want a ethnostate for every ethnicity. So I feel like it's only fair if you have black ethnostates. I don't know if the ethnostate should be within America. America is, a new concept in the last couple hundred years. Most of the American Indians have been wiped out, so it would be hard to rebuild an ethnostate for them. They have their horrible trailer parks that we push them upon. Can't deny that fact, clearly. But I feel like the ethno state would have to be tied to lands that were historically white. I feel like at this point,
But
America is always going to be a melting
okay,
pot, so it's not
okay.
possible here.
Now, what are historically white countries or lands? What's a historically white land?
Let's say like Germany, Scandinavian areas.
I don't know. I don't know because
Around
the ri-
around 10,000 years ago, they were like a brown type of Indian, and then they evolved to be white in the
right,
culture.
right, because yeah, they were brown melanated people up there in that part of Europe.
Yeah, but
Uh,
those people turned white naturally though through evolution.
well, they turned white during the Worm and Ice Age. That's when they turned white, right?
Yeah, like around 10,000 years ago, something like
Right. That's
that.
correct. That's correct. There, that ice age became depigmented during the Worm and Ice Age. They lost a lot of their pigmentation because of you know, being locked in that ice box. And then the noses got slimmer and the hair got straighter and all of that stuff. The asses got a little flatter. You know, you had to adapt. So, um,
But
but
but would you say that is a white homeland though? I feel like it's hard to claim otherwise.
what's a white homeland though? But
Like
because
very very northern Europe,
because again, it
because
was
not all melanated people are black. That's clearly something you can agree on.
yeah, that's true. That's true. They're not. They're not black like East Indians. They're not black, but they're melanated people, but they're not black like us. We're different phenotypically. Um, and again, many people say that the white skin that came out of Europe was basically a form of albinism. So there's a lot of theories on that. So what is a white land? And the whole concept of white is relatively new. That came out of Spain in the 1400s, the whole concept of white and blanco and that whole concept. So that's relatively new, you know. So,
Yeah, I feel like one of the best things for rebuilding relations of non-blacks and blacks would for be anybody who's not black to get out of Africa. We really
mhm.
have no business in Africa, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, but they're not gonna leave. Yeah, it's too many resources. Yeah, they went into Africa first and colonized and Alexander the Great and those guys. They went over there and pillaged. They saw all of the resources over there. So it was just so resource and mineral rich. They're never going to get their hands out of that voluntarily. And when the African leaders try to get on code with each other to say, "Hey, let's get these folks out of here," yeah, we see what happens to them.
Do you feel like Gaddafi could have been that person before he
Yeah.
got
Oh yeah.
overthrown?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the reason why they targeted him. He was going to have a gold-backed currency for the whole of Africa, and they were like, "Oh no, you don't. Nah, nope. We're not going to do that." Yeah, whenever any black leaders over there starts to go in on the white supremacists, Idi Amin, when he was doing the bidding of the British and those guys, he was cool, but when he started going against them, they had to put him in exile. Mugabe is another one. When Mugabe was going against the white supremacists, they had to get him up out of there. So, it's the same old play. But well, thank you so much. Let me get some more calls in here. That was a very civilized conversation. That's what we should have. We should have civilized conversations like that.
From New York Times best-selling author Tariq Nasheed comes Foundational Black American Race Baiter, the groundbreaking book shaking up the conversation on race in America. As one of the most influential voices for Black Americans today, Nasheed exposes the tactics used to manipulate, subjugate, and control Black communities. In this powerful read, Tariq Nasheed equips you with the knowledge to resist injustice and reclaim your narrative. Don't miss out on the book that's redefining the game. Foundational Black American Race Baiter, available now at officialfba.com. Get your copy today.